Welcome back, everyone. Turning back to breaking news right now, we first brought you in our first half hour of the show. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is exploring a run for governor of New York State. This comes after President Trump pulled her nomination to be a U.S. ambassador to the United Nations last month. And joining us now to talk about this is professor in government at Skidmore College, Dr. Ron Seib. Ron, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure to join you today. Thanks so much.
Of course. Now, the first thing I want to ask you, of course, is this a move for Stefanik to keep power?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting because she did have to make that return to the House of Representatives, and she's no longer in the leadership, though Mike Johnson has said that he'd like to make a place for her in the leadership, but there's not a space right now. So she's kind of a backbencher, and I don't mean to demean that because they didn't have subcommittee assignments for her right now. So I think that this is a way for her to kind of think about a future outside the House of Representatives. Initially, it was going to be UN ambassador. That did not work out, at least for now. I mean, that nomination could be revisited, but I think that now she's thinking about it, and again, maybe thinking about maybe in New York State there to run for statewide office is a way for her to gain, as you said, kind of get a little bit more, I guess, authority, power, and maybe as a launching pad to run for the presidency at some point.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
NBC News was reporting earlier that Stefanik has $10 million in cash on hand. Would she have the votes, though? That's
a good question. I mean, now we have to put that against Kathy Hochul has $15.5 million on hand, too. Money is not a fait accompli, but money is really important, in these campaigns, because New York is obviously a state with a lot of media centers. You're going to have ads up. I think the big challenge for her, of course, is the fact that New York, though it is after 2022, Lee Zeldin ran a very credible challenge against Kathy Hochul, lost by 6% of the vote, right. Flipped two counties in Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk, that Andrew Cuomo had won. So again, there are real inroads in Long Island that Lee Zeldin showed. So there is a path to victory for Elise Stefanik, but it's a very narrow path. Obviously, she needs to carry upstate, which she will, but she has to make some gains in the New York City boroughs and even in New York City itself. She's not going to carry New York City, but Kathy Hochul won with 81% of the vote in New York City and won the Bronx by 76% of the vote. So she needs to do better there. She also has to think about Westchester County in those areas around there too, the suburban areas. So it is, again, going to be a difficult climb for her just because New York is still a blue state. But I think Lee Zeldin has shown a path to victory. If she can kind of build on Zeldin's showing in Long Island in particular and in Westchester County, there's a possibility there.
And she has notoriety too. People know who she is.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Again, we always have to be kind of cautious about there. She's very well known in the North Country, but how well known is she downstate? I know that she's a national personality, certainly as a member of the House leadership, but I think sometimes we overestimate name recognition in those cases. But certainly I think that she'll have higher name recognition than Mike Lawler, for example, who is the other Republican who sort of made a flirtation of maybe running. And that's another dimension of this. It may not be the case that she has a clean route to the nomination because Congressman Lawler has also talked about running too. So does she want to fight a contested primary and then have to again fight Kathy Hochul for the crown of New York State governor?
My last question I want to ask you before we go is, she was encouraged by members of the Trump campaign and the Republican Party. Is it possible that maybe even Trump himself told her, go for this?
It's possible, absolutely. I think that one of the things that we have to think about is the timing is a little unfortunate for her because 2026 is not shaping up as a really good year for the Republican Party. Historically, the party in power, that the party controls the White House, loses seats in the House and the Senate, does poorly also in state House races. Thinking about the tariffs in the long term, if we go into a recession, that's going to kind of blow back onto Republican candidates. So, again, 2026 may be a tough year for Republicans, which again, in a blue state, makes it even more of kind of a puncher's chance to win.
Okay.